Hey guys, and welcome back to the We Believe Do You Paranormal Podcast. I'm Eric,
And I'm Michelle.
and today we have two very special guests. Our first guest today, well, not our first guest, they're going to be interviewed at the same time, but one of our guests today is Michelle.
And our other guest, super special guest, is actually Eric.
Oh my God, personal stories today. Finally, interviewing ourselves. So, what we're going to do today, guys, is some of the stories that we talked about in episode 0, we're probably going to say again, maybe go into a little bit more detail than we did then. But yeah, we're just going to go over those and tell some other stories that happened in our house. And this ties in a little bit to the Halloween special because we gave you the history of our grandfather and now what we think may have happened in our house because of the fact that he was here. So should be good, should be interesting.
Yeah, and just so you guys can kind of get a little bit of a visual of what our house is like. It's a 2-story house. There's one bedroom, living room, and a bathroom downstairs, and then come up the stairs, and you got another living room, the kitchen, and then you go down this hallway to the left, and you have 2 bedrooms and another bathroom. And Eric and I, as children, shared one of the bedrooms. So some of these stories actually take place in that bedroom, and it's actually the same bedroom that Eric records in right now.
Yes, it is.
So every time we tell all these spooky stories about things that happened in the house, he gets to sit there and remember everything that happened.
And that is also why I light a candle, a St. Michael candle to be specific. But yeah, so I'm also kind of nervous about my wife listening to this story because she's not very she's not very fond of like scary stories and stuff like that. And then to know that, you know, all this stuff happened in the house, especially the house that we currently live in. And then not to mention the room that we have downstairs is now where she works on her nail stuff. So yeah, I just hope she doesn't hear it and freak out, or I might just ask her to skip this one altogether.
That's probably a very good idea.
But yeah, so then, like we said, guys, you heard the history of our grandfather. So like it all started, I guess, my dad and him obviously had a strained relationship. I don't really know the reason why he decided to, let him come and stay at the house, but for whatever reason he did. And he stayed I guess he needed a place to stay, right? And he stayed in the room that's downstairs. So that was his room. And from what my dad says, he was very like kept to himself, really didn't, interact with us a whole lot unless like we went down there to talk to him or play with him. And again, I really don't have a lot of memories of him, like even just him being in the house. Like I maybe have 2. And he was here for, I guess, close to a year, I think is what Dad had said last time we spoke to him, right?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Like, he was there for an entire year. And I mean, I guess I was kind of young, but I have absolutely no memories of this guy, which I'm fine with. But
And the funny thing is, I have a really good memory as far as like from childhood, and like I remember stuff from when I was like, I think like 2 or 3 years old. And a lot of people say, "Oh, you can't remember stuff from that far back." I was like, "Well, I mean, I do, and I remember those things vividly." So
and you
for
can
me,
confirm them too, that they actually happened. Like, it's not like someone told you the story. You're saying it from your perspective, your experiences, and Mom can confirm that that's how it actually played out. So
yeah. So I mean, for me not to have memories of him is kind of weird. I mean, now that I think about it, maybe it's a good thing. Like I said, maybe I blocked it out. Maybe he did something to block it out, like some black magic spell or something. I have no idea, but whatever it is, I'm sure it was for the best. So yeah, I mean, as far as him, there's not a lot to tell besides his history and the fact that he was there. And I guess the only other thing that I really remember from him being there was that time that I pulled out the Ouija board. Like I remember vividly going down the stairs, opening the door, and he wasn't in the room, and I have no idea. I couldn't tell you where he was at the time. But I don't know, for whatever reason, I like look under the bed and I see this box, like a Monopoly box, which is how these things used to be sold in the stores. Like I look under the bed, see this box, and I'm like, oh, cool, a toy. Like, I've seen this on TV. So I pull it out And then I bust out the thing, I put it down, I grab that little magnifying glass triangle thing, and I just start moving around the board.
The
And
planchette.
sure, the planchette. And I start like moving it around, and I'm like spelling my name with it. Like I'm asking questions and like answering them myself. So I think, like I'm moving the planchette to the different answers or writing out the different. Oh, I must have been older then if I knew how to spell. I
I was
had to
gonna
have been
say
at
you had
least
said you're 7.
6. No, 7 was
Well,
that whole vibrating thing. Um, and he walked down. No, he was still there because like when I was playing with it and I was answering these questions and or maybe I was just moving it around. He ends up walking in, and I remember him like snatching it out of my hands and like putting it in the box and like and like not yelling at me, but kind of like getting after
raising his
me.
voice.
Yeah, saying you shouldn't play with this. This isn't a toy. This and that. And I remember telling him, I was like, but it's on TV. They play with it on TV. Like he goes, no, this isn't something you play with. Blah blah blah. And I was like, oh okay. So then he took it away from me, and I just kind of like I walked out. I mean, I wasn't like sad about it or anything. I wasn't even mad about it. I just was like, okay, whatever, just not a toy. So I walked out.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, Ouija boards. I have this like whole like back and forth with them. I also just like to. I have this desire to like push boundaries of things that I probably shouldn't mess with, but I want to. Like I have this desire to mess with a Ouija board and see what happens. I have this desire to get a haunted doll and bring it home, even though like it's probably all going to be disaster. But a lot of the times people talk about Ouija boards, and it's like I wonder if the movie The Exorcist is what kind of gave Ouija boards a bad name, because it was just a game, like you said, right? Like, I mean, and then The Exorcist came out, and that's how she summoned that demon. And I wonder if maybe they aren't that big of a deal. Although I've heard some horror stories with them, but then other people have like amazing experiences and nothing really happens, and they communicate with the dead, and that's it. So I don't know. Would it be bad if I tested one out?
I mean, I personally wouldn't play with it just because. I mean, I think the other thing too is us growing up. Again, we grew up Catholic, so it's like I think with the Catholic religion, that's kind of it's like a I don't know. It's just it's one of those things. It's like kind of understood that you don't mess with it because
Mm-hmm.
again, quote unquote, it's evil. And again, maybe it does have something to do with The Exorcist because it was a Catholic priest doing the exorcism in that movie. So I mean, maybe there's something to that. But again, I don't know if it's just our culture, the religion, or what it is. But I mean, in my head, it also has like a negative connotation, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
Yeah.
not something that you play with. And uh again, I've also heard that you can use it to communicate with like family members and stuff like that, or just people who've passed on and stuff. But there is that possibility that you could open up, something like a portal or whatever to something more sinister, more evil. And that's, I don't know, that's just something that I'm not willing to mess with and find out.
Yeah, for sure. No, I get that. I, on the other hand, kind of want to mess with it and find out.
Yeah, I know. So then I guess after he left, for personal reasons, that we can't really talk about here on the podcast. But he ended up leaving. And then I guess the next experience would be yours, Michelle, I think you also
Yeah.
mentioned this in episode 0.
Yeah, so I told the doll story in episode 0, just because that was like my earliest paranormal experience that I can remember. Um, I would be lying if I said I didn't try and like imagine that it was just a dream. I'm like, surely I was just dreaming. Surely I was just dreaming. But I mean, I guess as I've gotten older, like I could lie to myself and say it was a dream, but just I don't know. As a kid, like deep down inside, I know it wasn't a dream. Um, but basically, what happened was I was looking for this Barbie doll that I had, and we had this like black schnauzer at the time, and I guess she had gotten a hold of the doll um, and kind of chewed it up. And so I was walking downstairs, and it was I swear it was like something right out of a movie, because we have the light that's right at the end of the stairs, like right next to the garage door, Eric, if you
Oh
remember.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that light was on, and it was like all the other lights were off. So it was just like a spotlight on the doll. And at this time I already had a fear of dolls. So when I walked down the stairs, I was like, okay, there it is. But I noticed that the head was like chewed, like Julie had gotten to it and like chewed the head, not off, but it was just all disfigured and whatnot.
Mangled.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously it didn't look very pretty anymore. So I bent down, I grabbed it, was like super bummed, and I just hear this like female. I can't. I don't want to say it was like a little girl's voice. It definitely didn't sound like a little girl. Like maybe a woman, like an older woman or something. And I just heard "help me," and I thought, like, as a child, like my child brain was like, oh, the doll just spoke. Like the doll is hurt because her head is chewed off. She just spoke. She's asking for help. This doll is alive. So I freaked the
Yeah.
fuck out, and I run upstairs. And Alvita is one of our cousins. Like she was, I don't know, spending the night. Was just hanging out with us, and both you and her were in the bedroom, um, playing like Nintendo 64 or some shit. And I like busted through the door. I was like, "Why did you guys do that? You scared me." Like I was positive that it was you guys. Like surely you guys were the ones who were trying to freak me out, but you guys had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. And like I mentioned in episode 0, I ran up those stairs so fast. Like there is absolutely no way that you guys could have gone into the bedroom, closed the door, sat down, and started playing video games like without me catching or noticing any of that. So I don't know. I'd call it like a disembodied voice, that I thought came from the doll, but obviously dolls don't talk. So when we were kids, like obviously our parents worked full time, and we had a nanny essentially.
Yeah, like a live-in nanny, and but she would
Yeah.
also like clean the house and stuff like that.
Yeah, so she would take care of us, and I distinctly remember her telling us stories that she would hear stuff at night. Specifically, like I remember her telling us that she would hear whistling downstairs. I don't know if you remember that, Eric, or if maybe
I
she told you something
I
differently, but
thought it was something like singing, but maybe it was
oh,
whistling.
I mean, you have better memory than I do, but
Yeah.
yeah, I guess in my brain I have that it was whistling, but I guess, yeah, some sort of like musical melody, something that was going on that obviously should not have been going on.
Hmm.
Um, and so it just kind of validates like it wasn't us just having experiences. And the other thing is like that was because she was a live-in nanny, like that's where she slept. She slept in that room or stayed in that room with her daughter, that our grandfather stayed in.
Again, like my sister said, it does kind of, it's not just us having those experiences, and it was her. And I think even another live-in nanny that we ended up having a little bit after her also heard things and would tell us, and we were just like, ugh, it was, not fun. But at the time that she was living there, Carmen, was the time that I ended up having that experience where I was sitting on the sofa, and I mean, it was a recliner, and we had this big old like entertainment center, and I was watching TV, and I'm sitting there watching. It must have been during the summer because it was during the day when this happened. My parents weren't home. I don't know where you were at. I don't know if you were in the room or if you were somewhere else or what, but I just remember being on the sofa, and then all of a sudden, like, I just felt like my vision started getting very not it wasn't blurry. Like it literally felt like somebody was grabbing my head and just kind of shaking it, like,
Oh
and
God.
the like my vision just got very blurry, and then all of a sudden, like, I felt like the whole sofa was vibrating, and then I just hear something like a dog growling, like it sounded like a big dog. And I was just like, what was that? And I turned around, and it like where I heard it was kind of like the little hallway that's there where the two rooms are upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So I end up hearing that, and as soon as I turn, like, to try and see where this dog is at or what it is that I'm hearing, everything just stops, like the vibrating, everything, and I'm just like, what the crap was that? And then I think we had dogs outside, like big dogs. It might have been like Wendy and stuff. So then I run downstairs and I ask Godman for whatever reason. I was like, "Hey, did you let the dog in?" And she was like, "No, why would I let the dog in?" And I was like, "I don't know. I heard a dog growling upstairs." And she was just like, "No, no. Are you sure you heard that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure I heard that." And then I just went back to the sofa and I was just kind of like, "All right." So then I sat back down and I kept watching TV and, really didn't think anything of it. Like, I mean, I know it freaked me out, but it just
Yeah.
wasn't something I really dwelled on, at the time.
Mm.
And I know you said this before, and I had told you not to say it, but I mean, I guess we have to say it. Just based off of a lot of things that I've heard and stuff like that. You know, it does sound kind of demonic.
Demonic. Yeah.
Which
Well,
also will tie in later on to some other stuff we're going to talk about. So I don't know if it's been there since then or if it was something that came about later. You know what I mean?
yeah. And I after the release of Episode 0, one of my best friends, like growing up, Jackie, Jackie,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
she had actually mentioned like that she always felt kind of weird in the house, like she couldn't like put her finger on it, but there was like this feeling. um but like I was telling her, like I definitely think that there is some not so great things, but I also feel like there was some good things, like whether they're protecting us or just kind of malevolent is bad.
Bad. Yeah.
Benevolent.
Benevolent.
Yeah, I feel like there is some, but
Benevolent.
I feel like there is some ben- benevolent, uh, benevolent things in the house too. Whether that was, you know, family like grandma, or our own guardian angels or what, but I don't think it was all bad.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Um, I just got a lot of the bad later on. And well, actually, speaking of like talking it being good, one of the experiences that I did end up having, another one that was actually kind of good was we had these two poodles, a white poodle and a black poodle, named
Romeo and Juliet.
well,
Oh.
Juliet was her second name, but her
Oh.
mom ended up naming her Tiffany. So it was like
Oh,
Tiffany
that's right.
and
That's right.
yeah, Tiffany and Romeo. We ended up having these puppies, and it was at the same time that we also had Wendy, which was our German Shepherd that we like lived for like ever.
Yeah.
Um, and these puppies ended up getting parvo. Back then, we had answering machines, so basically, like somebody called, you weren't home. It's like you're on your cell phone. They leave a message on this tape recorder, and then you just play it back later. So I ended up seeing that we had some messages. So I started listening to the messages. And then one of the messages was that, Romeo hadn't made it, so he ended up passing away. And he was my puppy, and I got very upset and I started crying and was very sad. And I was starting to look for this teddy bear that I had. Um, and I couldn't find it. And I was just devastated because, I wanted to hold this thing, and I couldn't because I couldn't find it. And I remember going to sleep that night, very upset. And I usually don't sleep on my back. I sleep on my side or face down, um, or on my stomach rather. And I remember waking up at, I think it was like 6 in the morning because I was in middle school already, or maybe a little bit earlier, but on my own without anybody waking me up. And I was laying on my bed face up with my arms crossed and the teddy bear underneath my hands.
What the
And
fuck?
yeah, and I don't remember getting up in the middle of the night and picking this teddy bear up or anything. I woke up and I told I don't remember if I told my mom or my dad. I think it was my dad. Thank you, for finding the teddy bear for me. He was like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Yeah, like the teddy bear that I was looking for last night. You put it in my arms." And he goes, "No, I didn't look for the teddy bear." And then I was like, "Okay, well maybe it was mom." So then I told my mom, and my mom was like, "No, I didn't. I didn't put anything in your arms last night." So that was something else that always kind of like stuck in my head because I was just like, where did that come from? How did that happen? Like it again, I didn't do it, but apparently my parents didn't do it. And I mean, I don't think Michelle did it either. And all of a sudden I just woke up and this thing was in my arms. It was very weird, but it was, at the same time, it creeped me out, but at the same, it was very kind of comforting.
Comforting.
Yeah, because I'd been looking for that teddy bear and I was so like distraught with the fact that the puppy had died. And, it was just something that made me feel good.
Yeah. And so that's actually like a perfect segue into like maybe there was something good or watching over us, not only for your teddy bear, but like an experience that I had in the bedroom, was kind of just like waking up like super groggy. I have absolutely no idea what time it was, but I woke up because it felt like somebody was sitting at the foot of my bed. And I remember waking up and like looking, and I could see like the indent of like somebody sitting there. And
Mhm.
like, I didn't see anything, like I didn't see any sort of apparition or anything, but I just remember feeling like the mattress kind of like go down on the corner at the end of the bed, and then seeing like an indent. Like I said, something maybe was, or someone was watching over us at night and found your teddy bear and was hanging out at the edge of my bed. But
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. It's just, um, I don't know what that, I mean, have maybe an idea, but I'm not really sure. It's just, it obviously, I feel it was something good. I don't think it was anything. I mean, obviously not evil, right? Because why would something
yeah,
evil do that?
another thing that happened in that bedroom and also like happened in the middle of the night. I had this big stuffed animal. It was like a Labrador, kind of, yellow dog, super like raggedy, kind of thing. And I would sleep with it every night. And there was one night I woke up and it was like hanging off the bed. Like I had the top part of it, I guess, and then the other part was like hanging off. So I reached to pull it back up into me, and like when I pulled, something pulled back. Um and I don't know if it was like under the bed or on the side of the bed or what, but I just remember like pulling, and something pulled it back, and I was like, "You know what? You can have it." And I just like threw the dog, like pushed the dog to the edge of the bed and let it fall over, and like rolled over as far as I could to the opposite side of the bed, and was like, "No, I'm done." Like I don't know what that was. That time it did creep me out, just because, well, that wasn't supposed to happen. Um
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I think that's what was unsettling, is like that wasn't supposed to happen, and in my mind it was something under the bed, like a monster under the bed. Um, and so yeah, like I said, I just kind of threw it. I let it go and was like, "Fuck that! I don't want to deal with that," and rolled over and fell asleep. But
And you were able to go to sleep after that?
yeah, I don't know. Somehow I managed to. I think I was more tired than I cared about that whatever that was. I don't know. That was weird.
It's just crazy because that's like what the second thing already that's happened in this room. And then another experience that I had in this room was when I was laying down, was I was asleep, it was, we're asleep, whatever. And then all of a sudden, I remember waking up and the door was open because we used to sleep with the door open. And, because for whatever reason, we felt safer with the door open than we did with the door closed.
I
Yeah.
cannot sleep with a fucking door even cracked open. Like that's Carlos's nightly routine. Like check the closet door, check the bathroom door, check the like bed, like main bedroom door. Everything has to be fully shut, or else I cannot go to sleep.
Oh, it's because it's his routine because you make it his routine.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I'm usually in bed first, and I'm like, check all the doors. If there's like a crack, I'm not gonna be able to sleep. I'm gonna have to get up and close the door because
Yeah.
something is gonna like reach its hands or fingers like on the other side and open it up, and I just don't need a closet door swinging open.
But yeah, so we slept with the door open, and I remember just I woke up, and when I woke up in the doorway, I saw this like figure. It was like it looked like a woman, or like it was a small like kind of petite figure, but it was glowing, and it wasn't glowing like white or anything or black, or it wasn't a shadow figure. No, it was like rainbows, like just like a like rainbow light, just multiple colors inside of I think you told me it was like Uriel or something like that. And I remember, I mean, obviously as a kid, you see something like that and you get scared. You're like, what the
Yeah.
shit, you know? So then I remember trying to scream for my dad, but like at this point, I was already kind of like like, it's not like sleep paralysis where you're stuck in bed type of thing, you know? Like I was already like half like sat up, like I was on my elbow type of thing,
Oh
and I
yeah.
was trying to like scream, but I couldn't. But I guess from the fear, or like, you know how when sometimes when you're in your
Paralyzed from
dream,
fear.
yeah, and you're like you can't speak, you can't, you know. So I'm trying
Yeah.
to yell for dad and or mom, you know, and I just can't, and I'm like trying and trying, and finally, like I started to kind of squeak out a voice, and then I finally start to yell, "Mom, Dad, Mom!" Like just come, please, you know, and they ended up like I just remember dad like I just hear boom, like when his feet like hit the ground and he just
Uh
starts running. And mom like was obviously right behind him. And like as soon as they, so like I still saw the figure, right? And it didn't
huh.
go away until dad passed through it.
Oh wow.
So like he passes through it and it just goes away. It disappears.
Hmm.
And I mean, I tried telling them like what I saw, and you know, mom and dad would tell me like it's just a dream, you were having a nightmare type of thing, and I'm like, but I saw it, and this and that, and they're like, well, just go back to sleep, you're okay, you know, you're okay now, there's nothing there, blah blah blah, and you know, and then after that, like I just ended up dozing off. I want to say they stayed with me until I went back to sleep, but and again it was after the teddy bear incident and the after the stuffed animal incident, so it was like I was already in middle school I think at this point. So that was another experience that again I'm not really sure. I don't think it was evil because I mean all the colors, they looked really bright
Yeah.
and nice and stuff like that. So I know we've talked about it before, and we've talked about it possibly being, you know, some sort of guardian angel or something like that that was there, maybe protecting us from something that was evil. You know, I don't know.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't remember ever seeing anything like that in the house after, you know, after that incident. And again, like just because of everything that's happened in this house and stuff like that, I know it's, you know, I don't like it. There's good and evil, and you know, and sometimes we invited those things, or at least I did invited those
Yeah.
things in unknowingly invited them in, you know, because I don't know, I guess Michelle was getting into ghost stuff, and then like the shows Ghost Hunters and what's it
Paranormal
called,
state.
Paranormal State were coming out, and it was becoming kind of more popular and stuff, so people like were starting to like really get into, you know, those shows and stuff. And I remember I really liked those shows, and so did Michelle. And so like I asked my dad one day, I was like, hey dad, do you have a tape recorder? And he was like, yeah, you know, I have this old tape recorder that I used to use, blah blah blah, but I don't use it anymore. And he was like, here's some blank tapes. So then I ended up going to I think I told this on Max's episode, but I ended up going to the university and the to the dorms, and the dorms were previously an old hotel. And you know, people obviously had experiences in that hotel. It was a very old hotel before it became a, you know, the dorms. And so I told him, hey dude, you want to do some EVP stuff? And he was like, yeah dude, I'm down, whatever, blah. So we ended up like walking out and walking around the outside of the dorms, really didn't catch anything in there. And then he goes, we saved like the last room, or this like storage room on the second floor for last, because that was where, you know, people heard a lot of stuff happening. And I remember he ends up going, right? And he ends up, or we end up going and sitting on the stairs there. And his brother went to make sure that nobody was coming down our way. And then all of a sudden, like we're there recording and stuff like that. And then, um, I mean, obviously we didn't hear anything in real time. So then we went back to the room and we start listening to the recording. And, you know, I couldn't really hear anything, you know? Um, but then sometimes it's just like, for whatever reason, like being inside is a lot louder than being like out in the dead silence. You know what I mean? So I was just like, ah, whatever. We didn't get anything. So we went to sleep. I went back home the next day. Um, and I was like, man, let me listen to this again. So then I started listening to the recording again. And then all of a sudden, in that one spot where we were up in that storage room, we started hearing, or like I very, very faintly heard something. So I was like, holy shit, did I just hear that? So I was like, I go outside, I run outside because I guess the AC was running. So it was kind of a little bit loud. And then I go outside, and for whatever reason, outside was just like no sound at all, like barely like a faint chirp in the background of a bird. So I'm listening to this thing again, and I hear it clear as day. Like, I did it for the money. And I was like, I didn't understand what it meant or anything like that, but I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, that definitely was not, you know, heard.
Nobody said that
Yeah.
when you recorded.
Yeah. So after that experience, I was like, holy crap, this is kind of cool. So then we kept, I started doing it more often, and we started using a digital recorder that my dad bought because I told him I had got the CVP, and we talked to a buddy of ours, and he was a border patrol agent, and he was like wanting to do EVP stuff like that too. Or actually, no, I think he had done before, but he said that he had never gotten anything. So then we started going out with him, and I remember one time he took us to the golf course. We got onto the golf course, and because the golf course is over by the university, and the universe, all that area used to be like a battleground.
Mm.
So we ended up going to that area, and we were sitting there in a circle, and we started like recording. And I don't remember if this was like on the second or third time that we went out there, but I remember we were sitting in a circle, or as much of a circle as three people can make. And he ends up
That
going
would be a triangle.
right. Uh, a triangle. So we were sitting in a triangle, and I remember we put the recorder down, and anytime we heard something in the background, we just say, there's a dog barking in the background, or there's a truck passing, this and that, blah, blah, whatever. So then all of a sudden, he asks, and everybody was like, we would ask a question and then stay quiet for like 5 seconds. And then I remember he ends up asking, and at this point I had closed my eyes because I was trying to concentrate, focus, and just almost like if I was meditating.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden I hear him, or he asks, is it difficult for you to record on these digital recorders? And then all of a sudden, I swear to God, I felt like somebody whispered in my ear, and they just went,
Oh.
yeah. And they went, yes.
Oh, I don't like that.
So I hear that, and I like my eyes immediately snap open because I thought, well, one of these motherfuckers like whispered in my,
Yeah.
well, my dad, I don't mean to call him a motherfucker, but my dad and our buddy, right? And but no, both of them were, I mean, we all had our legs crossed and everything, so it's not like we could have like gotten up real fast and whispered in each other's
Yeah.
ears. And but then, like, when we replayed back the recording, there was nothing on it. So I was like, well, how is it possible that I heard it in my ear, but I didn't hear it in the recording? And then later on, like, we were supposed to like go record with him. I think you went with us this time, but
Yeah, I remember that.
but then he was like, I think he ended up having to pick up an extra shift, and he was like, but there's something I want to show you guys. And then so we go over there, right? And then he was like, check this out, check this out. And then he plays on a recording, and then he asked the exact same question, and then on that recording I hear, yes, like the exact same way I heard it. And I told him, dude, I heard that the day that we recorded that and stuff like that. And he was like, what do you mean? And he goes, yeah, dude, the day we recorded that audio, I heard that in my ear. Like, somebody said that in my ear. And then he goes, because I hadn't told him that night that I heard that. I experienced it. You know what I mean? And then, so I started like freaking out and telling him, he's like, but dude, I recorded this by myself. He was like, I was in my truck, and I turned all the stuff off, and I started asking questions, and I heard this, and I heard like clear as day, or like, I got that on the recording. And I was like, so that wasn't the day that we went to the golf course? And he's like, no, man, I was by myself. So it was like the exact same question, the exact same answer, but yeah, but I heard it like maybe a week before, or a few days before he got it on his recording. And so we had done this, like I said, multiple times. I had tried other times and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden at the house, we started getting like, at least I used to, at this point, I think I used to sleep
On the couch.
on the couch in the living room, because I think Michelle, like, I was in high school, I think by this, or no, I was in college.
You had graduated, yeah, because
Yeah,
I was in high school and I took over the room.
Yeah, so she was in the room, and I was in at the university already, and we started having a lot of experiences. Like we had a dog at the time, a little Chihuahua. His name was Zach, and he started. It started to where like I would be asleep on the sofa, and then all of a sudden he would just be barking nonstop all the time. And then there was just this one night where I was like, "Dude, shut up!" And then I could see him barking, and he starts like he gets up on the sofa, and there's like the way the sofa is, which was in the it's like up against this railing, and it looks down the stairs. So he's like looking downstairs to the downstairs area, and he's barking, just barking and barking and barking, and he will not stop. And then usually like he would sleep under the blanket or whatever that I used, and be in like under the blankets with me and stuff like that. And I kept putting him under the blanket, he kept getting out, putting him under the blanket, he kept getting out, and just barking nonstop. And then I like laid face up, because I was like, dude, this guy won't shut up. And then all of a sudden, like, he stood on my chest like if he was protecting me, and he was barking into the kitchen. I was like, Jesus Christ. And I was like, okay, like I can handle him barking downstairs, but like now he's
Something right
barking.
behind you,
Yeah, he's barking at
essentially.
something. Yeah, basically he's barking at something right behind me. And I didn't even want to turn around and look. I didn't want to like look at his head to see if he was barking straight ahead or if he was barking kind of like in an upward direction.
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of like, man, I wish this would be over. And then I just kind of like pushed him off of me, and I got up and I went to the room that mom's room. And I kind of just like sat down in the foot of her bed. And I think it was already like maybe like 4 or 5 in the morning. It was like super like, I guess technically
Early
early.
morning,
Yeah.
late.
Yeah, like we were gonna have to get up in about an hour or so. So I literally just sat down on the bed, and I laid back. And she goes, "Why won't he stop barking?" I said, "I don't know. He's barking downstairs. He's barking in the kitchen. He stood on my like I explained the whole story to her.
Yeah.
And then she was like, it's because of what you're doing." She's like, you whatever you're doing is causing this stuff to happen. And like, granted, like my mom really didn't know like that, how true what she was saying
Yeah.
was. She just said it because I guess it was the only logical thing in her mind that could have been, you know, what was happening, so
Yeah.
I mean, and again, like I know I later on I had read a book and stuff like that, and it talked about that, how like you become a beacon for these things. And I know we
Mm-hmm.
mentioned it in episode 0 as well, that when you start trying to communicate, like these people or these spirits or whatever it is, they start to kind of see like, oh, you're like opening yourself up, and you almost become like a lighthouse or a beacon for these spirits to come. And like they want to get a message out, so they see, oh, this person's trying to talk to us, let's go talk to this person.
Yep.
So they show up, and like I said, my mom didn't even know that she was
Right.
100% correct, you know what I mean? So it was after that I kind of stopped that, because I was just like, well, no, I don't want to have these experiences anymore. And eventually the dog kind of settled down after that. But it was definitely something that was an interesting experience, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. And I mean, like, I guess like one of the last things or the last experiences that I had, again in that room, and this was in high school. So yeah, you're already in college. Um, and like I said, I had kind of taken over that room. Um, I had like a loft bed, so it was like the bed was on top, and right below that it was like a desk. Um, and you know me, my bedroom was like always a mess, like always, like no matter what, like just a mess. So I think I'm pretty sure I was like looking for my house keys, and I'm like looking everywhere, like like picking up clothes, picking up paper, like whatever was on the floor, like trying to find these keys. I spent like a solid like 20 minutes just looking for these keys, and couldn't find anything. And I had finally given up and was just kind of standing in the middle of the bedroom, like I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't have my keys. I have no idea where they're at. And then all of a sudden they just fell from my bed and landed in front, like right at my feet. But and I don't even want to say like they fell, because they didn't fall. It was literally like somebody tossed them, and they did like a
little arch.
Yeah, like it, like an yeah, like it like arced like up, and then it came down and landed right at my feet, like somebody had tossed them from the top of my bed. I didn't lean on the bed. I didn't like tap it. I didn't touch it. I was literally standing in the middle of the bedroom, like, okay, where the hell are these keys? And then someone just tossed them and they landed at my feet. And I remember like, oh, cool, sweet, there they are. And I just like, I picked them up and I walked out of the bedroom like, cool, I got my keys. And then it took me like a solid 10 seconds to process like what had just happened. I was like, wait, that shouldn't have happened. Like, I didn't,
Yeah.
like, what was that? And then I was freaked out, but like, because that shouldn't have happened. But it wasn't like, it didn't feel evil or anything. It was a helpful ghost, I guess. But
It
it
was the
was
same.
just,
It was the same ghost that put the teddy bear on my chest.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that there is good things in there. Like, I definitely do think there is some like creepy stuff, but I think, we also had some good spirits there that were looking out for us, because yeah, like experiences like that, like, I mean, they're helpful. It wasn't scary. It was scary because it shouldn't have happened, but it wasn't like, it didn't feel bad.
Right. Yeah. And then after that, I mean, what was that, like 11th grade, 10th grade, somewhere around there?
Probably something like that. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
10th or
after that,
11th.
graduated high school, and then you took off to Austin.
Yeah. And didn't really have any experience. Well, I didn't have any experiences at the house, but because I wasn't there.
Yeah. And
So
then, so then after she left, I was like, cool, she's not here anymore. My turn to have the room. And I mean, like you guys are asking, I know Michelle said at the very beginning, she was like, okay, well, we have 2 rooms upstairs and we have one room downstairs. Like, why didn't you just go sleep in the room downstairs? And the answer to that is, fuck that. I have never liked that room. I never liked that room as a kid. Nothing like, anytime that I had to turn off the lights to go downstairs, like I literally, like typical kid, like flick the light off and like just
run.
run, just because I had a
Yeah.
fear like something was going to grab my leg and pull me down or some crazy shit like that. So that's why I slept on the sofa, because there was no way in hell that I was going to,
Sleep in that room.
sleep in that room or make that room mine. Because my mom told me, why don't you just go sleep in that room? And I was like, oh, because no, that's why. Because I'm not,
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. I feel bad now as an adult. Like, I took over the room and stuff, but
I
I don't
literally,
blame you.
yeah, I literally slept in the sofa for like almost 8 years, I think.
No.
It was all through high school,
I'm
and
part of middle
then,
school. That's right.
but at that time, I 100% preferred to sleep on a sofa, because I just didn't want to be in that room down there. So finally, Michelle ends up going away to college, and so like I took over that room, and then had some experiences, like this one time that I think I had gone to watch a movie with an ex person that I used to, an ex, whatever. Anyway, so I ended up coming back home. It was like 1, 2 in the morning or something like that. And then like I turned on the TV, and I was watching the movie, and then like I mentioned in that episode, I turned on the TV. That ends up being like the preview that comes out. And as soon as that preview comes out, it's like,
What was the preview?
of Paranormal Activity 3, I think,
Okay.
or something like it. It was one of the Paranormal Activity movies. Okay, yeah, no, it was the Paranormal Activity. And all of a sudden, like as soon as that preview comes on, all the power in the house goes out. Like the whole house went dark, and I was like, holy shit. And I stood there for a couple seconds, and then I started hauling ass to like the door, because I was like, fuck this. And as soon as, because in my head I was like, shit, let me go check to see if the power's out in the rest of the neighborhood. And why would somebody think that? Like, why wouldn't somebody just assume that the power went out in the entire neighborhood? For whatever reason, I guess because of what was on TV, like I just freaked out, and I started like running to the door. And I go, and as soon as I put my fingertips on the doorknob to start turning it, the power just comes back on. So by the time I opened the door, like the power was on outside. So I don't know if it was like just my house, or if it was the whole neighborhood, or what the hell happened. And then, so I was just like, I opened the door and the power comes back on. I was like, holy crap. So then I kind of closed the door again, and I go back inside, and I'm trying to remember, mom wasn't here. So I think by this point she had already moved to Austin with like, well, not with you, but like move to Austin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to be honest, like I feel like that's when a lot of my negative experiences started happening in the
When you're
house.
alone.
Yeah, when I was alone. Cuz like I would have nightmares, and the nightmares would be like me getting dragged out of bed. Um
Uh,
like yeah, something like trying to pull me under the bed.
it was
Uh
the thing that yanked on my stuffed animal.
and that's why I was going to that. Like, oh, I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to like start like because I
Jump
had already
ahead.
done it. Yeah, I remember every time that I had these nightmares, I would have to pray the Our Father. Sometimes I couldn't get through the prayer, and I would have to start it again multiple times. And then finally, when I would get more than halfway through or close to the end, like I would kind of snap out of the dream. And then at this point, Michelle had already kind of gotten like, I guess, kind of like spiritual, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
or like into
Yeah.
like mediumship
Yeah.
and
I had been yeah, exploring my spirituality, I guess, and had done a few workshops trying to work on some skills, I guess you could say. And learned a few things about protection and banishing evil things.
hmm, yeah. And well, I remember, she had actually started talking to me about all this stuff, and that's kind of where like I kind of started, you know, learning about the angels and stuff like that, and how like the Catholic Bible only has certain angels, and then there's other, you know, religious texts or religious books that have other angels, and in totality there's like more angels than are in any of the, you know, books and stuff like that. Because it's like they pick and choose which angels they want to represent them, and then the other angels, they don't even mention them, or so she started like talking to me about that, and I really liked that, and we started, I started looking into that as well. And so I ended up talking to her, and I told her, hey, you know what, can you like, or she I knew she was starting to do that, and actually I think she offered, she was like, do you want me
Yeah.
to cleanse the house? And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm willing to try anything, like, because it was horrible. And the thing is too, like the whole downstairs was just full of like stuff, because there was at
Yeah.
one point the house got remodeled, and they just brought everything back, and they put it all in that
Downstairs living room
living room.
area.
Yeah, and it just never got cleared out, so all of that stuff was there, um and so I ended up calling Michelle, and she offered to do that, and I was like, yeah, dude, like I'm willing to try anything, because at this point, like it's horrible, like these nightmares, like I'm dealing with them, and but it's not something that, it's honestly like, it's terrifying. It's some of the most terrifying dreams that I've ever had. Like imagine like just like you laying in bed, and then you're being pulled to the edge of your bed. And the thing is, it didn't feel like a dream. It felt real. I felt like I was experiencing it for real. And then sometimes it would even happen, which was even more terrifying, where like I would be in the dream, and then I would say my prayer, wake up from the dream, but I was still dreaming, and then more shit would
Wow.
start happening,
Ugh.
and then I would finally wake up. And so like when she offered, I was just like, yes, please do it, because I'm done with this. Like seriously cannot deal with this shit anymore.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, I got to do this, because I mean, I grew up obviously in that house too, so I know how terrifying it kind of was, and just like that, like it had, especially the downstairs had like this bad vibe to it. Um, and I went to my local crystal shop and got some black tourmaline and some selenite to put on the four corners of the house. Bought some sage, and then I mean, we kind of just went around the house and cleared all the rooms, opened up the windows and the doors, and just started doing a clearing, saying some prayers.
Yeah. So then after that, we burned the sage, saved the ashes, buried the ashes as well outside, buried the four gemstones in the corner, in each corner of the house. Got up to the upstairs, and she was like, "Okay, now we're just gonna pray." And then I was like, "Okay." So then we start praying, and again, sitting in a triangle, because it was only three of us. It was you, mom, and myself.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there, we start praying, and then I remember you telling me, okay, we're gonna pray, but I also need you to imagine
Oh yeah.
Michael, Azrael uh, going through the house
Uh-huh.
into every room, like clearing out the house.
Yeah.
So we start doing that and we're praying, and I just feel this heaviness. It's exactly what it was. It's like as I was clearing, imagining these angels clearing these rooms, and I'm getting emotional right now just talking about it because
It was scary. It was a lot. It was a lot.
I remember that day, I didn't know what to expect when we started doing this, and we're sitting here and we're doing this, and I'm picturing these angels like clearing these rooms out, and like she said, like I can physically feel myself just getting smaller and smaller, and like just getting weighed down more and more, and like the weight is just getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and like I'm sitting up like trying to correct my posture, and then all of a sudden just again just getting weighed down more and more and more and more, and all of a sudden I just burst into tears. Like I got to like I finished like imagining these angels clearing out the house, but I like still felt that heaviness. Or maybe I don't know if I got to finish
No,
like
you couldn't. I remember like you tried to get to that bedroom, that fucking
yeah,
bedroom downstairs, and like I can't. You're like I can't envision it. Like I can't see it. I can't see them clearing that room. Like you were
yeah,
stuck on that room.
yeah, and like so she saw me like just, and I told her I was like I can't, I feel heavy, like I can't sit up, and I started crying and I just started bawling, and then I started to try and like compose myself, and then she started praying over me, like just literally stood up off of her chair and like put her hands on me and started praying, and I just started bawling again, like I just crying emotionally, like just there was no reason for me to be crying like that, like
Nothing happened. Yeah, nothing
no,
had happened. We were just praying, and you just yeah, just burst into tears. It was a
yeah.
lot.
And then my mom started crying too because she was like, what the fuck, like what's going
Yeah.
on, and we were able to clear, I was able to clear the rest of the house with, like again with that imagery of the angels, and she prayed over me, and then it was gone. It was like it lifted off of me. I didn't feel heavy anymore. And I mean, I'm so glad that we did that day, because ever since that day I have not had a single bad experience in this house. Like I'm no longer afraid of you know going down into that room. I can turn off the light of that room and walk out of the room and like not be terrified of, I mean, sometimes I'll feel something, but
As
it's
bad
not
as it
like
was.
before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um but I think sometimes it's just like I think the memory
Yeah.
of what I used to feel that kind of triggers that, and not so much that there's anything there. You know what I mean? And that was like the turning point, I think, is after we did that, the whole house felt a lot better. And again, like I haven't had those experiences in the house anymore. And I'm really grateful for you for doing that for me, because I don't know, maybe I did have something attached to me personally, and I just, I don't know, you know.
I, yeah. I mean, I that when I went to go do that, yeah, my intention was it's the house, but especially you being there by yourself, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if something was trying to be oppressive,
Yeah.
and that's why you felt so heavy and you were having those really crappy dreams, and that's why you got so emotional too. Like I I wasn't expecting that. I fully just intended on clearing the house and that was it. But um, I'm really glad that I was able to do that. I'll be totally honest. When it was happening, I was like, I don't know if I don't know if I'm qualified for this. Like, I don't think I could do
Yeah.
this. Like, I was like, this wasn't supposed to happen. I was just gonna like
Yeah.
clear the house. But yeah, I could feel that fear too, I guess, of all three of us. Honestly, it was very palpable. But I'm glad we were able to kind of get rid of that and move through that for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really think that the angels did also guide you through that, whole process,
Yeah.
because like you said, like, I remember you telling me I wasn't expecting all this to happen. Like, I don't know if I can do this. And then you just did it and it happened. And like I said, whatever you did, whatever we did that day, mostly you, it worked. And I felt so much better here now than I ever have, honestly.
Yeah. And I mean,
Um,
even the times that I've gone back and visited, like, yeah, it feels good. Like, I don't look downstairs like something's gonna pop out, or like, yeah, it's not scary like it used to be anymore.
Very intense, guys. I mean, we figured, since we talked to you about our grandpa's history, we had teased some of these stories before, that we would, go ahead and, talk to you guys a little bit about our experiences here at the house. And some of these experiences were very, just minimal, basic, like, just not basic, but like harmless is what I'm trying to say. Very harmless things. A couple of these things were kind of like, holy shit, that was kind of scary. What the fuck was that? And then it just all culminated into this, very heavy thing at the very end that, again, Michelle was able to kind of help clear out of the house. And we just wanted you guys to hear those experiences, because, those are the kinds of things that we want to hear from you guys too. And just so that you guys know that, that's why we're here, to hear that stuff. And it's not because, we want to hear these things, because we've had these experiences too. And, we want you guys to be able to talk to us about it and share with us, and know that, you have people out there that are going through those things, and you're not crazy.
And you're not alone. Most importantly, like, we get it. We understand.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you do want to share those stories, guys, send us a message, email us. If you have pictures that you want to send in, a video, to go along with those experiences, send that to us as well. You can send us messages on Instagram. It's at We Believe DU Podcast. On Twitter, we're at WBDY Podcast. On Facebook, we are We Believe DU with a question mark. Our YouTube channel is also We Believe DU, and we have a link on the Facebook. And our email address is webelievedu@gmail.com. So if you want to go ahead and send us that, we'd really appreciate it, because we believe.
Do you?